If you've been thinking about buying a home in Kansas City, Northland, you may be walking straight into one of these 7 deadly traps that unsuspecting buyers will actually spend thousands of dollars if they're not aware of. Now stick with me because I'm going to show you exactly how to dodge each one of them before you regret even stepping into the open house. If you're wondering who the heck am I, I'm Big Mike. I'm a local Kansas City real estate agent and I actually specialize here in the Kansas City, Northland area. These are my stomping grounds. If you're looking to buy or sell, feel free to reach out to me. And in this video, we're really just going to be discussing the top 7 things you should avoid if you're trying to buy a house and not make a massive mistake. So without further ado, let's dive on in. Number 1 pitfall on this list, skipping the real cost breakdown. Now, let's face it, when you're purchasing a house, you see a price tag, $350,000. That does not include everything you need to know. And most people want to get the best deal possible, and I get it. But realistically, arguing over $5,000 or $10,000 off the purchase price doesn't help you significantly. You may be able to save $50 to $100. What are you going to save that way? The best thing you could possibly do if you're going to argue on price, especially if a house has been sitting on the market, try to get them to buy down your rate. Let's say a 2-1 buy down, let's say roughly about $10,000 in credit. You could actually save 2% your very first year or 1% the second. It'll actually save you significantly a lot more money, especially the first 2 years. And then level 2 is first year or 1 year. And that saves you way more money than just the purchase price off. Now, these can all pile up and ultimately, if you do not have a budget, you're just going to end up shooting yourself in the foot. Find out what kind of inspection prices are, what kind of appraisal prices are, what kind of down payment do you need, what other expenses do you have, are you buying down the rate? These are all things that you really need to get in line with before you even start shopping. Definitely let your lender know everything you got going on. Now, if your down payment, let's say, is $20,000, I'm making that up, your closing costs are going to be probably $2,000, $2,500 on top of. And then you got inspections and appraisals, those are another $1,000 or so. So it's significantly higher. So if you're pressed on every single dollar, just keep that in mind. There are expenses before you ever even get to the closing table. So that's just the very first one. If you have your phone bill, you got whatever the insurance, whatever else may be, sit down and actually go over all of your finances. The last thing you want to do is purchase a house and then immediately have to sell it because you have over leveraged yourself. The bank's going to be able to help you out a little bit, but they only know the biggest numbers and ultimately it's their job to loan money. And if you're trying to get money, it's their job to loan it to you. So just keep that in mind. Number 2 pitfall, buying without a thorough inspection. Look, guys, I don't care how good your dad is. I don't care how good your mom is. I don't care how good whoever that is not a professional inspector may be. Pay for an inspector. The reason for it is you get one opportunity to purchase an inspection. You want to know every inch of that house, and there's going to be a lot of items on this house. There's going to be 50 to 60 pages worth of stuff, and that's good and okay and expected, even if it's new construction. The reason for it is you're paying that inspector to come in and find every small thing wrong with that house, and you want it to be as thorough as possible. For one, I would suggest anything less than $1,000, don't worry about. Those are not really big items. It's just one of those things. Yes, do you want them fixed? Absolutely. But the seller 99% of the time doesn't want to mess with small stuff. If the furnace is about to go out, maybe your condenser is about to go out, maybe there's a hole in the roof, maybe there's whatever the case may be. Anything over $1,000 is something to be wary of. That causes for renegotiations. If you have a bunch of small little nitpicky items, you want them fixed? Yes. But ultimately, is it going to change the house value significantly for you? No. Is it going to put you into a financial bind if you buy it? It shouldn't. Otherwise, you probably shouldn't be buying a house. But that's just my opinion. Just get a thorough inspection. Over here in Missouri, the top ones are just a general mechanical inspection. Then you got sewer inspection, radon, and then termite. So those are the big 4. If you so desire, you can get a roof inspection, you can get a furnace inspection, you can get an AC inspection. The sky's the limit on whatever you want, but those are the big 4 for right now in Missouri. Now, number 3 trap on this list is going to offend somebody. If you overlook local market trends. Look, guys, I know every single person in the world wants a good deal. If you find a house one day on market and it's a pretty desirable home and you want to come in and offer 20% under market value, you're wasting not only my time, but you're wasting yours. The reason for it is you have a seller that's extremely excited to sell a house and you come in and you're like, yeah, I love the house. Let's just go ahead and get it for the best price possible. I get your mindset. and I award you for it. Now, a really desirable house, you think you're the only one that's going to possibly know about it. You're wasting your time. Now, the houses you can negotiate on, go find a house that's been on the market for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, there's a reason why. The ultra desirable houses in Kansas City right now are flying off the shelf. If you want to come in and offer some BS price just because you want to feel good about yourself, look, I get it, but it doesn't help you in the long run. Ultimately, what's more important, saving $5,000 off a house and you think you got a good deal, or finding the house that you absolutely love that you can build equity up for the next 5 years to come? The choice is yours, but that's what I would say. Overlooking the local market trends is absolutely ignorant if you are not prepared. Now, I get it. If you're buying like a $100,000 house, that $5,000 might be able to really help you, but ultimately, $5,000 in the grand scheme of things is about 40 to 50 bucks a month. And how is that going to help you whenever you really want a house to live in? So ultimately, choice is yours. I would say never overlook the market trends. Right now in Kansas City, it's hot and people are not getting crazy deals unless the houses have been sitting. And the house has only been sitting if nobody wants them. So just keep that in mind. Next on this list is just forgetting about factoring in the ongoing costs. Let's say HOA, taxes, landscaping. Maybe you live in a community that requires like the HOA to cover your cutting grass, your snow removal, maybe some of your maintenance, whatever the case may be. If you do not factor those in, and maybe you're on a fixed budget of some sorts, or maybe you're just throwing the very last dollars that you have to purchase your very first house. The HOA, maybe it's a $1,500 HOA. Maybe there's a special assessment going on. Maybe you purchase in an area that the taxes is raising. Maybe you purchase in an area that the special assessment is actually going on for an extra 1% for upgrades in the area like Shoal Creek has. It's one of those things you need to be wary of. What are the ongoing costs of if you purchase in a certain area? Those taxes can definitely kill you when it comes time to purchase in January. In odd years, housing taxes goes up. So whenever you purchase a house, the housing taxes is going to go up. If you purchase the house that, let's say the last owner purchased in 1970, most likely their taxes is somewhat on the light side. If you actually plan on purchasing that house and expecting to pay that taxes, I'm sorry, but taxes is going to go up. And whenever you purchase for whatever price it is, that's what the taxes is going to go up to. Every odd year, there's a reassessment. If you purchase in an odd year, 2 years from now, it's going to be a reassessment. Taxes is going to go up. Your insurance is most likely going to go up. And then your monthly payment ultimately is going to go up. So do not always shop at the very top of your budget, especially if you think you're at the very top of your career. Now, if you're actually growing and moving and shaking and you know for a fact you're going to make more money, then keep that in mind. Predict that also as much as I would say your taxes. So just overall. Number 5 trap on this. Assuming you can get a loan any given time. You know how many people tell me, I'm fine, I don't need a pre-approval letter, I'll be good. And then when we come to find out we're getting a pre-approval letter and they're not good. You know how heartbreaking that is when you have your heart set on purchasing a house, maybe you're a first-time home buyer. You haven't done the research on your credit, you really don't know your finances, and maybe you're all by yourself, and whatever the case may be, maybe you missed some payments. I get it, life happens. But whenever you're trying to borrow for a mortgage and you go find a house that you absolutely love, and then you want to make an offer on it, and then just to get told you cannot afford it, it's like a kick in the nuts. One of those things, I require all my clients to get pre-approved before working with me because, for one, I have a lot of clients consistently hitting me up, and the very last thing I want to do is tell my clients, hey, you can't afford this house because of some mistakes you made in the past. That's not my job. I really hate being the deliverer of bad news. But ultimately, if you can just go get pre-approved up front, it lets you know how much house you can afford. It lets you know how safe you are. It lets you know, hey, you know what? Can you make an offer and not have to worry? It's all of these things that just provide comfort during this entire home process. If you don't know how much house you can afford and we're sitting there looking at $400,000 houses, and then ultimately we find a $400,000 house, but yet you're only pre-approved for $300,000, those $400,000 houses are always going to be better than the $300,000. Just to give you perspective, maybe you only can afford a $250,000 house, and we'd be looking at $500,000. You never know the case, so it's one of those, just cross it off so it's 100% certain instead of waiting for the future to find out some random situation had occurred and now you can't afford the house that you truly desire, or vice versa. Maybe you're like, man, you know what? $250,000 is all I can afford, and yet you can afford more, and you actually are able to afford a lot more. Those houses are going to be more desirable because of you're getting more for your money. So just keep that in mind. So don't assume you can get a loan anytime. Just go get one and then figure out what's your next steps. Number 6 trap is ignoring the location red flags. Look, if you guys love a house, but right next door they're throwing up a brand new garbage disposal place, let's say a bunch of trashes, that's not going to be good for resale value. Maybe they're taking some of your land and putting it in a highway. That's not good for resale value. Always find out the information that you need about that property. Are you in a good location? What's going on in the location? Is there any negatives to the location? Let's say you're buying out in Kansas where they have the rumors of the new sports facility. If you buy out there and you have a house right next to it, let's say they do build a stadium. Do you not think it's going to be loud? Is it not going to change the value for your house? Is it probably going to skyrocket? Yes, but ultimately it's going to skyrocket because of the land that it sits on. So it's just one of those things. Keep in mind of the location red flags and what you have going on around you, and more importantly, what's going on with that specific property. And then number 7 pitfall, thinking the contract is just a formality. Look, guys, do not make an offer unless you're 100% committed on purchasing that property. The reason for it is complacency sucks. If you just settle for a house, you're never going to love it. You're never going to just be overly in love with it. Now, I will say, if you're a first-time home buyer, get in where you fit in. Find a house that crosses off most of the boxes, and then upgrade when the equity of your house has went up significant enough. The reason I say that is the contract is not just a formality. It's a legal binding contract. Yes, can you get out during inspections if they're terrible? Absolutely, but your goal should be, I want to close on the property. I want to make this my next home. I love this house enough where I can see myself being here for the next 5 years. That's your ultimate goal. Don't just make offers on houses just because you're like, oh, I'm kind of bored of renting, or oh, I need to go find a place to move into, or I need to move out of my mom and dad's house. I'm just going to find the very first house. That's not the right decision to make. Patience is a virtue, and I know for a fact, if you really are excited to purchase a house, you want to make a move ASAP. The best thing for you, though, is being patient, finding the right property, not just the first property. So just keep that in mind. And there you have it, the 7 fatal traps that if you avoid every single one of them, I promise you, you can have an amazing home buying experience. And if you're like, you know what, I trust this guy, I want him to help me, feel free to reach out to me. Once again, I'm Big Mike. Find me on Google, find me on Instagram, find me anywhere social media is present. Feel free to reach out to me. I don't try to hide. With that being said, I'm not sure if I can help everyone in this world, but I can guarantee if you call me, I can help you in some manner. So until you reach out, subscribe to the channel. I drop valuable information like this about the Kansas City Northland 3 times a week. If you're moving to the area, get in touch with me sooner than later. It's easier to work on your timelines than work at the very last second timeline. There are houses involved, especially if you're selling a house. There are stipulations involved. Just reach out to me. But until that time happens, I'm out. Peace.